Temple Run and these other game makers, they were charging different customers different amounts. That's what made everyone upset, and it seems bad. But in fact, this business strategy is all around us. It's just not usually based on gender. I mean, think about it. Airlines? They charge different amounts for the same flight all the time. If you buy a ticket at the last minute for a business trip, it's just going to cost you more. Senior citizens? They get discounts at the movies. It's the same seat that you'd buy, but it's being sold for a different price. The movie theaters call it a discount. But you could also say it's young people pay extra day. The economist that tweeted about Maddie's op-ed was Tim Harford with the Financial Times. We talked to him a lot on this show. We love talking to him, so we called him up. And Tim has written about this. His favorite example of this two-price strategy is coffee shops that charge more for using fair trade coffee in your fancy cappuccino. Now, it might sound like a fair trade cappuccino would cost more to make, but really, it doesn't.
There's actually not very much coffee in a cappuccino. The main cost of the cappuccino is the rent and the staff time and then the milk. And the coffee is really, it's just a tiny little item. And so to upgrade the coffee to fair trade hardly affects your cost at all. It's maybe 1 cent.
Coffee shops had figured out a way to charge one group of customers more for what was essentially an identical product, something that costs almost exactly the same amount of money to make. And when you can pull this off as a business, it's very profitable. Lots of businesses do that. And Harford says there's really nothing inherently evil about any of this.
You've got a business which has got a cost base, it's got to cover those costs, and then it's going to try and make some profit. Where is it written that that profit has to come from every consumer absolutely equally? That's just not one of the rules of the universe.
There's even a name for this kind of thing, product differentiation, or my favorite, price discrimination. Now, when economists use the term discrimination when they're talking about prices, they're not talking about sexism or racism. They're talking about discriminating between two groups of customers, one group who is willing to pay more and one group who is not. And usually, people don't even notice or care. If you want to charge more to business travelers, that's fine. If you want to up the price for a fair trade cappuccino, no worries.
So there's no malice in any of that. It's just this purely almost algorithmic calculation. But if you're not careful, you may find the algorithms lead you to strange places.
Strange places. Like if you want to play a video game using Guy Dangerous, it's free. But if you want to play as a female character, say Scarlet Fox, it costs you. At this point, price discrimination starts to look a lot like what the rest of us mean when we use the word discrimination. How did Temple Run end up in this spot? Tim Harford has a theory.
I'm guessing a lot of the coders were white guys.
Guys sitting around making a game for other guys. We decided to call up one of the guys who made Temple Run to find out what they were thinking, and it wasn't a guy.
Sure, my name is Natalia Luckyanova.
Natalia invented Temple Run with her husband. And just to cut to the chase, yes, Natalia read Maddie Messer's op-ed. She saw it the day it came out, and here's how it felt.
It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to read that.
There it was in black and white, an article written by a 12-year-old girl mentioning Temple Run 4 times, calling the price system that made Natalia so successful, quote, ridiculous.
Basically, we got called out for being sexist, in the Washington Post of all places, and at the same time, I think she was right. Because, for all of our good intentions and for all of my good intentions, it's true that, you start out with this male character. The male, the white male is always the default. And then anything else, it's like you have to work for it. So I think she had a point.
Natalia explained to me how Temple Run ended up charging users who wanted to play as a female character. When she and her husband were first coding the game, when they were designing it, they did think about what gender to make the runner in the game, the person running from the evil monkeys. And they just thought it should be a guy.
It didn't look like the stereotypical sort of game that women would play. And it didn't look like the stereotypical game that kids would play.
Natalia and her husband had made games like this before and had seen statistics that in games like this, most of their players were male. Guy Dangerous seemed like a natural choice, a good way to go. And at the time, he was the only character you could play as. They decided to try making this game free, and that worked. It was enormously popular. Millions and millions of people downloaded it. It was a huge success, except for one thing. Because the game was free, they weren't making any money. They needed to figure out a way to get some of those people to pay for a game they were already giving away. There was an obvious solution, though. Create new characters and charge for them. But who would be willing to pay? Women were an obvious category. Natalia and her husband were wrong when they assumed only guys would play this game. 60% of the people playing Temple Run were women.
There was a huge demand for a female character. We thought, oh, okay, like we need to add a female character here because, this isn't just a boys' game.
They added a bunch of new characters, actually, all of which people could pay for, including Scarlet Fox. And people paid. Guy Dangerous might be the default character, but Scarlet Fox, she makes the money. Natalia says that somewhere in the back of her mind, it felt weird to be charging for a female character, but it just kind of floated there in the background. She played video games as a kid like Maddie, and she often played as a guy. It never bothered her. Her favorite game in college was this Nintendo classic, Mario Kart.
I consider myself a Mario Kart master. I loved playing as the character Wario, which is like this big, fat, evil dude with like a mustache. And for some reason, that was like very appealing to me as a very small woman. Like I wanted to be like this big dude.
But when Natalia and her husband read Maddie's op-ed in the Washington Post, they saw her point. It made a ton of sense. And so they sent her an email that day. Here it is. You're absolutely right. The gender inequality in our games has been bothering us for a long time, particularly since most of our players are women. That's why we're planning on making Scarlet Fox a free character permanently. And we also have a number of additional female characters in the works for future updates. So stay tuned. Maddie was thrilled. Other game companies are taking a hard look at their prices too. Disney is dropping the price for at least one girl character. And another game company sent Maddie an email. The makers of this little game called Noodles Now say they are going to add a new free character to their game. And it's a girl. And it's going to look a lot like Maddie. In fact, they're modeling it after her. A long-haired girl riding a scooter around delivering noodles. That's the point of the game. The character's name? Maddie.
I can't wait to just be me, be my character and see how they're going to put it into the game. That's really cool.
But in lots of mobile games like Temple Run, the pricing system is still kind of problematic. The female character in Temple Run, sure, she's going to be free. But there's no free black character or Hispanic character or Asian character. These characters all exist in the game, but you have to pay for them. Maria Selva, a kick-ass punk Latina character, is 100,000 gold coins, about $10.
We'd love to know what you think about today's show. Email us at planetmoney@npr.org.
And thanks to Tim Harford. I should mention his book.
Yes, you must mention the book. It's very important. All authors want their books mentioned. Anyway.
You could read more about his great examples of price discrimination in his book, The Undercover Economist, or his latest book, The Undercover Economist Strikes Back. Thanks again to our producer today, Nadia Wilson. I'm Steve Henn.
And I'm Jess Jiang. Thanks for listening.